most often attributed to Edmund Burke, but the actual origins of which are unknown, gives us one of the truest and most poignant statements of modern times. The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to be fucking dumb. As a little palate cleanser between my Young Justice videos, I'm going to share with you what bothered me most about the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Not the broken writing, not the frankly boring camera work, editing, sets, etc. Not even the missed opportunities. No. This is a what doesn't work for me episode, and the thing that genuinely got on my nerves the most was everything surrounding Bail Organa. And I know that's connected to the broken writing, but please just let me have this. And I'm going to be getting quite animated in this video as I usually do, but I want to be clear that I do not want to add to the Star Wars hate train right now. And despite the natural tone of my voice, I don't actually like being negative. I'm not angry. I'm just Scottish. Which is why when I get animated in videos like this, I like to address either the character or the show itself, because there are so many people who work on shows and movies. It's not like a novel where you can lay everything at one person's feet, and even that's debatable. And even considering the many poor writing, editing, and directorial decisions that led to this being a pretty frustrating series, I genuinely don't think it deserves the vitriol it gets. So do let me know if you want to see a more positive video on this show, because there are things that work about it. So I would like to say that the man who was one of the few shining examples of what a politician should be, a man who wielded his power wisely and justly, a cunning statesman, somewhat a mentor to Padme Amidala, the man who raised Princess freaking Leia, is now a completely guileless idiot who guilts a traumatized war veteran with no home, no family, and one singular purpose into abandoning the child in his charge to go and search for the daughter he could easily have paid a bounty hunter to save. And the show tries so hard to make this make sense.
If Leia is discovered...
I can't leave here, Bail. My duty is to the boy.
What about your duty to his sister?
No. That was your duty. Remember? That was the plan? Leia was to be protected by a royal family with all the guards, money, powerful people and resources possible to protect her, and Luke was to be protected by his anonymity and a single Jedi guardian. Wasn't that the plan? And you, for no reason, let's get this straight, no reason, are going to take away one of the few protections this boy has because you don't want to draw attention, as if conscripting a Jedi, one of the most famous Jedi, someone whose face was plastered all over Clone War propaganda, isn't going to draw far more attention than sending literally anyone else. There is literally no reason to send Obi-Wan here. You have guards. You have your own freaking army.
Where's the army?
But you don't want to draw attention, fine. Hire a bounty hunter. This is Star Wars.
You can find them in the phone book.
And not only that, but you're taking away one of Luke's few protections when there are Inquisitors on his home planet hunting for specifically Jedi, but if they come across Force sensitives, we know that's not going to end well, considering what we learn in this show.
I had a wife once. I knew exactly what she was before we got married. And the Inquisitors found her anyway.
You can make the he's a distraught father not thinking clearly, Obi-Wan is the only one he would trust with his daughter argument all you want, but... And this is for that specific minor subset of original trilogy purists who, since the release of the prequels, just simply hate the idea that the sun doesn't actually shine out of the Jedi's arses, and hate this show. Take this as a balm, because this is actually proving the Jedi right, and one of the many things I maintain they're wrong about is that people with loved ones to protect are incapable of acting rationally and pragmatically in situations like this, which I very much maintain that they are. This is all just here because they wanted yet another sweet, kid-friendly story of a gruff warrior gaining or relearning hope from a wide-eyed innocent child. And that is one of, though not the primary reason I don't watch The Bad Batch. Yet. And I hear, apparently the original script pitch for this was a lot darker and focused more on Obi-Wan's trauma and Vader's sadism. And if that is true, considering those were the best parts of the show, oh boy do I want to see that script. And this is where all the problems stem. They wanted Leia in the story, but there are so many ways this could break canon, so they have to twist themselves in knots trying to make this make sense, and it just doesn't. When we should have been focusing on, in the words of Ewan McGregor, fucking Obi-Wan Kenobi, his relationship with Anakin and how he's coping after everything. And that brings us to something I want to talk about in relation to Obi-Wan, because it feeds into how this is an even worse decision on Bail's part than it first appears. I know a lot of people don't like to see their heroes broken or changed in negative ways. And while I do sympathise with that, and in some cases even agree, I think it is incredibly limiting. I think The Last Jedi is another movie that, despite my own dislike for it, is hated to a degree that it does not deserve. But I do agree with the fans who say it was a mistake to do this to Luke, because this will be fine for any new fans you want to bring in. And this is me speaking as someone who only got into Star Wars post-Disney, post-entire sequel trilogy even, through the extended universe rather than a lifelong love of the main series. So despite the fact that I like Luke, he's not really that important or significant to me in any way. But I will still say that you cannot expect the majority of your returning audience who last saw this,
I feel the conflict within you, let go of your hate,
to immediately accept this.
He would bring destruction and pain and death at the end of everything I love because of what he will become. And for the briefest moment of pure instinct, I thought I could stop it.
Yes, this is a progression that could reasonably happen in this universe. Any universe, to be quite frank. But you can't go from someone who refused to kill perhaps the second most evil person in the galaxy to a guy who even for a fraction of a second considered killing his own freaking nephew. It doesn't matter how many explanations you give for it, you can't go straight from this to this without any story in between to help your audience adjust. It would be like seeing Season 1 Walter White and jumping straight to Season 5 Walter White and explain what happened to him and why he's ended up this way through a conversation. It won't make sense in the audience's heads or hearts no matter how much you explain it. But for those who are making the same complaints about Obi-Wan, I am convinced that there are a certain subset of fans out there who simply just do not like to see their heroes vulnerable. And I'm not talking about the manly kind of vulnerable where they become even more closed off and harder and everything. No, I am so bored by that I can't even be bothered to pretend to yawn. And I believe this because, one, to give you my own biased perspective, I'm an extended material girl. That's how I got into Star Wars. And the Jedi Apprentice series is one of my favourites. And he may be prim and put together as the best of them, but you better believe me when I tell you this poor baby's got some issues. And for those who want to say not canon, the recent canon series surrounding Obi-Wan's Padawanship brings up a lot of the same issues. And even in the main series, his master was killed right in front of him and he was unable to save him. He took on a huge responsibility of raising and training a powerful, traumatized slave child with anger issues, got conscripted into a war as a general, lost many, many men, other men he led tried to kill him, his entire home, surrogate family and religious order was wiped out in less than a day, the boy he loved and raised participated in that and became one of the most evil and destructive people in the galaxy. Said boy then tried to kill him and he was forced to fight and severely mutilate him, left him to die a painful death before exiling himself with the single 2-decade-long lonely purpose of watching over the child who is one of only 2 people in the galaxy who have a chance to end all this. And that isn't even counting quite possibly every difficult, dangerous and emotionally draining mission he went on before the Clone Wars even started and all the ones he went on during. No, if he isn't dealing with PTSD, if he doesn't find it at least somewhat difficult getting out of bed in the morning, if he isn't struggling to a fairly serious degree, that is what you should call lazy, uninspired, and unrealistic writing. I am not saying the show did this well. In fact, I will argue they very much didn't, and the first episode was really the only one that gave it any semblance of focus. But I disagree. As much as it is possible for me to disagree that this was the wrong direction in which to take the character, I do not believe that. What was this video about again? Oh yeah, Bail Organa. So, taking Obi-Wan's emotional state into consideration, check out what this insensitive tube does.
You've made mistakes. We all did. It's the past. Move on. Be done with it.
Move on? Move on? Bail, I'm not trying to minimize what you went through during the Clone Wars. I've said before that it's often very unhelpful to compare who is more damaged. But you are living on your intact homeworld with your wife, your daughter, money, power, and even though you are doing very dangerous work and politically and covertly fighting the Empire, considerable security. You are trying to tell this man who has been through everything I've just laid out that you both made mistakes and he should move on like you have. Wow. I have nothing to add to that because it speaks for itself better than I ever could. You know, for a show that wants to display Obi-Wan's trauma and struggles, it's pretty insensitive towards them. And lastly, all we have just talked about could be badly, but still, hand-waved away by Bail just being distraught and worried because intelligent people suddenly lose all objectivity at times like this, when in fact we've been shown this is a time where a lot of people become laser-focused. But this is an act of stupidity that is unexplainable. Once again, this is Bail Organa. If you don't know, there are deleted but still canon scenes in the prequels which show members of the Republic Senate talking about how powerful the Emperor, then Chancellor, had become and were gathering people to stand against him. This served as the beginnings of the rebels we would see in the original trilogy. So this man, who managed to maintain his family, and his planet's safety all the way up until the Death Star was completed, arguably the father of the rebellion, a secret force he had been participating in successfully for 2 decades, calls a comm to the famous Jedi he sent after his daughter after not hearing from him for a while, so not even knowing if he even has the comm or whose possession it's in now, and starts talking about how important a certain boy is, where to find certain boy, and what his guardian's name is. Oh god, it's stupid. I mean, I've liked stupid stuff. The prequels are unironically my favourite trilogy, and there's a lot of stupid stuff in there, but this just is beyond all of them. I think this is the worst example of this show just needing things to happen so the plot can move forward, rather than thinking of ways the characters would get there naturally. So Bail becomes irrational, unsympathetic, and unintelligent just as a device to get Kenobi to the place the show wants him to be. There are many instances of that happening in this show, but in my opinion, this one is the worst. I always had a fondness for Bail Organa. He's not my favourite or anything, but as I said, him, Padme, and to a lesser degree Mon Mothma are the optimistic representation of what a politician should be. The one thing that the prequels and subsequent prequel-era content did so well was to build this dirty, messy, convoluted system that mirrors our own world so well in spirit, and then points to these people and says, this is what it should be like. This is what it could be like. And this show is too busy playing your princess is in another castle no less than 3 times that it just didn't care. So yeah, if I could sum up my feelings on Obi-Wan Kenobi, it would be disappointed. Because the stuff between Obi-Wan and Anakin is so good, and Hayden finally gets to play Darth Vader, and he does it so well. So once again, tell me if you'd like to hear my positive thoughts on this show. They don't outweigh the negatives, but they are there, and why, despite everything, I do genuinely want to see a season 2.